Today, we're tracing a totally invisible trail, something you create every single day but can never actually see. I want you to picture a highly detailed visual map connecting every single step you take from the second you wake up. Because the reality is, your phone likely knows exactly where you've been today, literally drawing this precise, invisible map of your movements right there in your pocket. But here is the central mystery we've got to unravel. How does it actually know? Most of us just assume our phone is only tracking us when we pull up a navigation app and ask for directions. So how is it gathering all these tiny clues to figure out your exact location, even if you haven't opened the map in days? Well, let's dive into this. What we're really talking about here is a relentless digital detective living inside your phone. This detective kicks things off by building a visual timeline of where you've been today. It logs the morning commute, that quick stop for coffee, hitting the office. It's just constantly sketching out a record of your daily movements. And spoiler alert, it doesn't just reset at midnight. It knows where you went yesterday, too. And here is the truly fascinating and maybe a little bit creepy part. Your phone doesn't even need to be actively tracking you with GPS every single second to accurately pinpoint these past locations. It has other, much more subtle ways of painting this picture. Actually, depending on your settings, your device might be holding onto a hyper-detailed history of places you visited months, maybe even years ago. Places you have entirely forgotten about are just neatly cataloged as data points on a hidden map. So, how is this pocket detective actually pulling all of this off? Section 1. Gathering the clues, GPS, and beyond. We absolutely have to start with the most obvious tool in the box, GPS, the Global Positioning System. The core concept here is surprisingly simple. Your phone is basically just listening. It's listening for signals beamed down from satellites orbiting the Earth. By carefully comparing exactly how long those different signals took to arrive at your device, it mathematically calculates your exact coordinates. That's the system that boldly says, yep, you're right here. Now, if you picture a visual breakdown, we have two main categories of tracking here. On one side, we have direct tracking via those GPS satellites we just talked about. But on the other side, that's where the real detective work happens. Estimation tracking. Because when you're indoors, or when GPS is turned off to save your battery, your phone heavily relies on Wi-Fi networks and cell towers to gather hidden clues about where you are. Let's look a little closer at Wi-Fi. Imagine you're walking down a busy city street. Your phone can instantly see several nearby Wi-Fi networks, and crucially, it doesn't even need to connect to them. Since wireless networks are visually mapped to physical places, just detecting a specific router is a massive clue. It's literally like walking into a neighborhood and recognizing a local coffee shop. You don't have to walk inside and buy a latte to know exactly what street you're standing on. Then we've got the infrastructure hiding in plain sight. Cell towers. Your phone is constantly communicating with the cellular network, just so you can get calls and texts. If your phone can see multiple towers at once, the network measures those connection strengths to visually shrink your location radius. It narrows you down from somewhere in the country to a specific city, and right down to a specific neighborhood block. So the really crucial point here is what happens when these layered technologies work together. GPS chimes in and says, hey, you're probably here. Wi-Fi looks at the nearby networks and says, yep, that makes perfect sense. And the cell towers confirm somewhere right around there. When this machinery combines these separate layers into one visual picture, it suddenly has a highly accurate, laser-focused idea of exactly where you are standing. Section 2. The role of apps, the informants. Whenever you install a new app, it usually asks for your location, right? Now, many of these requests are entirely practical. A weather app obviously needs your location to visually show you if a rain cloud is over your house. A ride-sharing app needs to know where to send your driver. But look a little further down that list. Other systems request this data for background analytics, targeted advertising, or just to quietly build a history of where you've been. Now, when you start learning about this, it's super easy to get a little paranoid, but it is so important to remember, location data doesn't automatically mean someone is watching a tiny dot move around a map in real time. It can for sure feel creepy to open your settings and see a visually mapped record of your favorite restaurant, but remember, this is generally just a machine receiving and logging signals. There isn't some guy in a dark room secretly tracking your dot on a screen. Section 3. Revealing your habits, from data to privacy. The real issue pops up when these single, seemingly meaningless data points are collected over a long period of time. You start to see how the dots connect, visually. A dot at a coffee shop every morning at 7 a.m., A dot at an office building for 8 hours a day. A dot at a gym on Tuesday evenings. Thousands of these location points strung together expose an amazingly detailed picture of your human routine, revealing where you work, how you relax, and who you spend your time with. This detailed mapping of your behavior is exactly why we experience this big privacy shift. Location tracking stops being just a neat, helpful technological trick for getting directions and completely transforms into a highly sensitive privacy issue, because it's no longer just about where your phone is, it's about who you are and how you live your life. Section 4. Taking back control, managing the detective. The incredibly good news here is that you can totally turn the tables. You can go into your settings right now and check exactly which apps have location permission. You can review your phone's broader privacy settings. You can, and absolutely should, disable access for apps that simply don't need to know where you are to function. I mean, like a basic calculator or a simple game. By taking these steps, you restrict unnecessary access without breaking the usefulness of your mapping and weather apps. And that brings us to the power of allow. Look, we have all been there. You download a new app, open it up, and a prompt pops up. You're in a hurry, so you just quickly tap allow so you can get to the good stuff. But taking a brief moment to understand that tiny button is absolutely crucial. That single button determines exactly what invisible trail of information you are handing over to a third party. So, as we wrap up this explainer, the next time your phone seems to just magically know exactly what store you're standing inside, remember this list. It's not magic at all. It's just software constantly compiling a giant collection of small invisible clues, from satellites to cell towers, Wi-Fi networks, Bluetooth devices, and your own apps, to visually build the answer to one simple question: where is this device? The technology is brilliant, and honestly, it's built to be helpful. But ultimately, the most important question for you to ask yourself right now isn't whether your phone knows where you've been. It definitely does. The real question you have to answer is, how much of your location history do you actually want it to keep on record? Thanks for joining me, and I highly encourage you to go check those permission settings right now.